It is said that human mind is fueled by an intricate triad of thoughts, emotions, and actions. Further, research has pointed to primacy of emotions in this triad as the cause as well as consequence of our realities. What are emotions? What do they do to us? Why do we need a rich emotional vocabulary to examine our everyday experiences? What is the disorder development continuum in the field of mental health? What role do mental health professionals play in today's world? What are their anchors, aspirations, and anxieties? To explore this subject and more, here is a conversation with Manjiri Gokhale, a clinical psychologist and counselor with over 2 decades of practice, currently working as a consultant at the Institute of Psychological Health IPH in Thane. Being a hands on mother of 2 young girls gives me many opportunities to walk the talk and learn from the journey of parenting, she says. Welcome, Manjiri, to this conversation.
Thank you, Milind.
Manjiri, you are a mental health professional with
That's right.
nearly 20 years of practice in this field. Uh, I would love to have this conversation begun on a note where I ask you a very simple and a naive question. So when you say mental
Please do.
health, when you say mental health, uh, what are we really talking here?
Uh, I would say, see, mental health is a very integral part of your health and well-being. So, whenever we are talking about health or we think about health, usually we think of physical parameters. It would be about your strength, your stamina, whether you have any ailments and stuff like that. That's what most of us think of health in that way. However, being in this profession for more than 2 decades now and learning about this field has made me realize, and I happen to see its relevance even more because mental health is something which underpins our ability to, say, cope with stressors, deal with different challenges in our life. It helps us realize our own potential, our own abilities. It helps us to build relations, like nurture them. If they are broken, your mental health and your state of your mental health is something which will determine whether you can mend those broken relationships or no. To a large extent, how do you learn? Do you work well? So what I'm saying is that this is something which is relevant to each and every one of us. Generally, people think of mental health as something, oh, we don't have those problems. Or when you talk about mental health, people invariably think of mental disorders. Or you might have seen something in movies, or you might think of, oh, that means I will have to go to a mental hospital. Or you invariably link that to a very extreme state of mental disorder and disability, which also comes under mental health. However, that is a very tiny part. So, when we are talking of mental health, I feel you should look at it not as the presence or absence of a mental disorder. Mental health is more like it's a dimension, it's a
So,
continuum.
so, so let's look at what just happened right now
Hmm.
between us as we
Yes,
were trying to connect to have this podcast recording over a Zoom call. Uh,
correct. technological glitch.
Yeah, and plus coupled with that, now, uh, you know, I can say with pride and a fair bit of joy that on the Wings podcast, I have been able to host uh, nearly 80 plus conversations. And despite that, Manjiri, every time I get into a recording, even the one that we are having right now,
Mm.
prior to starting the Zoom session, I have
Mm.
butterflies in my stomach. I am not sure how the conversation will go. And the design of this podcast is that of an unstructured conversation. It's nothing that, there's a script that you and I have to follow. We,
Correct.
in our this conversation, the only agreement you and I have had is we will keep mental health as the core because that's what you have done much of your life, but then link it to various social and personal realities of the times that we live today. So that's the only
Correct.
brief that we have agreed on. But
Yes.
nonetheless, I had the butterflies in my stomach before I got into this conversation.
Well,
As you
it was not just you, but me too. In fact, you are a veteran. This is my first podcast. So even I had butterflies in my stomach. And no, I have been on platforms, and so public speaking is not really an issue for me. But yes, today, this, so in fact, you wouldn't believe it, but this morning I had my headphones tested and checked and whether it is connecting to my laptop. And I had actually done that dry run. And in spite of that, we hit a roadblock today
Yeah, we hit a
initially.
roadblock. Your Bluetooth speaker just couldn't connect, and then we said let's drop that and go back to the good old wired microphone and the headset that we use for a mobile phone. So there was a brief moment that I think both you and I experienced a certain anxiety, uh, a certain fear, if I can use that word. Uh,
Yeah, and I think some irritation also. Like I did experience that because, like, why is this not working?
Correct, but then nonetheless, we gathered ourselves. We didn't allow this anxiety get over us, and found a way forward and say, okay. And then now we are recording this conversation. So can we then say that mental health even plays in as elementary situation as this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, this could have taken, say, for example, if either of us would have panicked and say, we would have just said, oh, forget it, this is not working. Or say, suppose I had got so scared and anxious that I would have just logged off. It could have gone anyways. But like both of us said, okay, let's figure out something. We need to get this done. We tried different options and we could think of different options because we didn't let the emotion totally overpower us
And
in a way that it would make us not act at all.
and if, for example, if we had let the little irritation or anxiety on the tech issues that bothered both
Mm.
of us when we started this conversation, if we had allowed that to persist and stay with
Mm.
us, uh, would it have affected, or will it affect the conversation that we are having right now?
Uh, at least for the first few minutes, it would have, is what I feel,
Okay.
because it stays with you. See, emotion is something that stirs up something inside you.
Mm-hmm.
It is a feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and it is emotion is something that to a large extent determines your reaction, how you act, your actions. And so say it could have gone different ways. So the example that you took right now, for example, say if you had been upset with me, or if I was really irritated to the extent that I can't really think straight,
Mm-hmm.
then our conversation would not have really started and got to the point where we intend to anchor it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Correct.
we could have gone into what went wrong, or why didn't you do this, or you should have done that, or no? it
Yeah.
could have gone that way, but
And moments
it
like these,
didn't.
yeah, moments like these happen all the time, right? I mean, uh, last
Absolutely.
night I was trying to fix an Amazon Fire Stick for the first time onto my television to watch Amazon Prime videos. And I struggled a lot. And to the point of getting so irritated that I said, have I made a wrong decision of trying to, watch Amazon Prime films or videos on my TV? I mean, it's too much of technology, but okay. I gave it up, and today morning, with a clear mind, uh, I was able to find a way out. So the question that I am then left with, Manjiri, is emotions. I think you said a little while ago, or feelings. Uh, do all kinds of things on us, right? So can you kind of help us understand what is an emotion, though we understand it intellectually, and of course at sometimes we feel it also, but
Hmm.
what happens when we are in the grips of emotion?
So, see, emotion is something that is, I would say, in contrast to thinking.
Okay.
So, when you are in the grips of emotion,
Mm-hmm.
it is difficult to have your cognitive and rational brain function at its optimal level.
Okay.
Emotion is something that, so of course, emotion is what I would say when if it is just plain dry thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
it is very likely that you might not take any action on it.
Okay.
So, take any example. So, I might be thinking of joining the gym. I might be thinking of making that one phone call to my bua or some friend. So it's at a thought level.
Mm-hmm.
But say, for example, my Google Photos just pops up some memory of 5 years ago. I see a photo of me with my that friend or my aunt, and it suddenly stirs up something inside me.
Okay.
And then I'm like, oh, I have to make this call. I have to connect with her. So it is only when that thought gets the fuel from that emotion that it makes the action possible. Now, we do a lot of actions in our life on a day to day basis, which are not necessarily uh, led by emotion, but these are generally routine things. Like you go
Correct.
about your daily routine, you might be doing some work. Every time it is not necessary that you have to have some emotion behind that action. But I'm saying that your emotions and your thoughts are very closely linked. And if that emotion supersedes everything, it just takes over you, it hijacks your brain. It is in those times then taking action can become difficult, or you do an action without giving much thought to it, and you might regret it later. So what I mean to say is that emotions certainly affect us, they affect all of us, they are an integral part of us. It's a mental state. What is necessary is that we need to be aware of our emotions, we need to address them, we need to realize, give its due place and value in our day-to-day life. And if all these things happen, emotions, thought, go hand in hand, and it results in action which is productive, let us say.
Let me go back to what you just said about thinking and feeling, and somehow
Hmm.
uh, I feel that the language that we use and the vocabulary of words that we have uh,
Hmm.
are such that it almost makes us believe that when I say
Hmm.
thinking, it is something else, and feeling, because it is another word, it is something else. Like, in colloquial Hindi, we say, हम दिमाग से सोचते हैं, दिल से महसूस करते हैं. Like you're saying,
Yes.
come on, man, have a heart. You know, you are a heartless person, kind of stuff. So somehow we've managed to distinguish between thinking and feeling as if one has got to do with the mind or the brain and other has got to do with the
Yes.
heart. uh,
Yeah, so actually we usually associate thinking with the brain,
Correct.
feeling with the heart. But there is one more word which we use in Hindi and Marathi, or which is called man. So if you ask a person, no, where is your brain? They will show you.
Correct.
If you ask the person, where is your heart? You can
Yes.
show me your heart.
Correct.
If I ask you, आपका मन कहाँ है?
Correct.
Or I don't know, you can loosely translate it to mind, I guess,
Okay.
in English.
Correct.
But when I say man,
Yes.
where will you show your man, Milind? Where is your man?
I have no
You
clue.
can't place it because
No, no.
man doesn't have an anatomy.
Yes.
And that is where this feeling, thinking, there are other faculties also, like judgment, it might be decision making. So all these things are always intertwined, and they are intertwined so seamlessly that we don't really realize it.
Would
Now,
it
as a matter of academia, we learn about it separately, that this is thinking, this is feeling. But in our day to day lives, most of the times these two things come together.
they also say, at least science now, I believe, has reached a stage where it has come to a very objective conclusion that every cell in the human body has an intelligence. For example, many, many years back, I was on a holiday to Thailand. Asha, I, and Rahul, our son, him. We were holidaying and we were on a boat ride,
Hmm.
high-speed boat ride in the ocean. And for some reasons, I wanted to feel adventurous, so I went and sat in the front of the boat. Uh, Whereas all the heavy horsepower motors are at the rear end of the boat. So typically, if you can imagine a high speed boat going at 40, 50 kilometers an hour on the ocean, the top is
Right.
a little in the air,
Tilted up. Yeah,
tilted up,
it's tilted up.
tilted up. And after a while, the sea went rough, and the tilted up is where I was sitting because I wanted to feel the adventure. And little did I know that that was the biggest mistake I was making in my life, because after a while, the front of the boat just went, like a pendulum, up and down,
Oh my
hitting
God.
hitting the waters for some time, and then going up and again. And somehow we were thrown as the tip would go up, and as the tip came down, we came down. But unlike those 4 5 people who were sitting in the front, I couldn't synchronize my return back along with the front of the boat. So what happened?
Hmm.
There's a moment. I'm saying this all out of hindsight memory, as I'm recalling the incident. But then the front of the boat hit the ocean, and I landed a
Hmm.
little fraction of a second later, and I had a
Okay.
huge impact at the bottom of my spine,
Hmm.
and I went into a spasm. The
Huh.
muscles around my backbone just went like a rock. And
Hmm.
I was in a state of shock, and it was a very harrowing moment. And then it took me almost a year to recover. I was in bed for about 6 months without motion,
Oh
uh,
God.
because I chose not to do a spinal surgery. It was that bad. But then my orthopedic surgeon, who is an old school doctor in his late
Hmm.
70s, he explained the whole phenomena of spasm. And he said that, Milind, when your body was trying to come down along with the boat, and it realized that it is not synchronizing itself, so there is going to be an impact, and the
Hmm.
spinal cord will get injured,
Hmm.
and probably I will be disabled for life. Uh, what the muscles realized that
Hmm.
this is going to happen moments before the impact, and the
Hmm.
muscles simply became like a stone and took
With
all the
contract.
impact on itself rather than had the skeleton structure getting impacted. And then he
Mm-hmm.
went on explaining how there is this intelligence in our body, in every cell. Uh, would that then mean that the man is actually in every cell of
Mm-hmm.
the body? It feels, it thinks. I don't know. I'm just curious.
I don't know if it's there in every cell, but there is a very close relationship between mind and the body. That is what I definitely know.
Okay.
So, and a lot of times there might be a impact on your body, like
Yeah.
you just explained in your scenario,
Yeah.
but it is the mind which will take the blow.
Okay.
And it can happen the other way around also. So you might be having a lot of stress, a lot of unresolved emotional baggage, which is in your mind, which is at the level of emotions and feelings. However, it takes a toll on your body. And I have seen cases in my practice where I have seen this no mind. So one thing is learning about that. We had learned that in our college days, about no psychosomatic disorders. There is a group of disorders which is called as psychosomatic disorders.
Okay.
Psycho means psyche. Psyche is the word, Latin word for mind,
Correct.
and soma means body.
Correct.
So psychosomatic disorders are where some kind of emotional impact on your mind is manifested through the body. Now, we had learned that in our college days, but when I see these cases in my practice, even today, like uh, you know, coming up every few months, it reiterates and it is true that both these things are very closely related. So, and it can happen at any age. It can happen to anyone. It is not like no, whether you are educated, you are not, whether by nature you are an anxious person or you are a confident person. That does not matter, because your mind and body are very closely related. And typically, uh, at a instinctive level, at a reflex level, our brain is trained to either fight it, either flight, which is like run away, or you freeze. So if you sense that you are in danger, instinctively your body and your mind will choose one of these options. It is fight, it is fright, or it is freeze. And with each of these responses is a typical emotion which is linked, which is associated. So if I say I have to fight something, the emotion which is associated is anger, because I need that energy.
Correct.
I need that, no, like it has to boil inside me to fight. When I say flight, run away, the emotion which is attached to that is anxiety.
Or
When I'm
fear.
scared, I run away.
I fear. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fear. Or if, even the example that I gave you, that I could have just ended the call. So what would I have done is not physically run away, but at this level, because this is not a actual physical danger or challenge,
Correct.
but we do that. So running away can happen at different levels. So the emotion which is associated with running away is anxiety. And the third instinctive reaction we have is of freeze, that you just stay put. Say, for example, if there is a snake going by, I freeze, because then let the snake go away and then I'll be out of danger.
Correct.
But this was millions of years ago. Today we rarely come across, like, even today we do, but it's rare. But today, if I have an interview coming up, or if I have an exam coming up, and if I find myself that I'm just not able to do anything,
Correct.
I freeze. And the emotion associated with this freeze response is depression, or what you would call a complete state of inaction. where you feel that I can't do anything.
I'm
So I
helpless.
don't know if answers your, yeah, I'm helpless. I can't do anything about it. So I freeze. I just say, I can't do. जो होगा वो देखा जाएगा. I can't do anything about it.
Correct.
So I don't know if this answers your question, but we were talking about how each cell in your body has this man or has emotions.
Yeah.
But this is how evolutionarily we have evolved. So this fight, fright, and flight response is like hardwired in our brains.
Correct.
And now, of course, as we have evolved and progressed, it is not just three basic emotions.
Thanks for explaining this very simple concept of, fight, uh, flight or fright or freeze, which I guess happens to all of us all the time. I mean, maybe I'm driving on the road
Yes.
and somebody cuts me in the lane, and maybe we meet each other at the signal, and maybe then I have always had this dilemma: should I get out and pick up a fight? And then I said, Jane do, I am in a rush, so
Yeah.
I kind of leave it. But of course, that happens. But then, they say that uh, to be good at anything, you need to understand the vocabulary of that kind of work. For example, when let's say if I want to be in business, or I have to understand the vocabulary of sales, marketing, finance, production.
Mm.
There are specific languages involved. Or if I have to uh, be an actor on stage in a
Mm.
theater, I need to understand the vocabulary of theater. Uh, Everything that
Correct.
is involved, whether it is costume, or whether it is script or direction or stage movement or dance, I don't know what.
Mm.
Similarly, in your world of psychology, I'm sure there is this vocabulary of itself. So in the world of emotions, since we are talking mental health, uh, is there a
Yes.
concept of emotional vocabulary? Because I don't know it as such. I mean, understand emotions. I mean, I feel angry, I feel happy, I feel joyous, I feel curious, I feel frustrated, I feel super excited. I can understand and feel those feelings. But is there a concept called emotional vocabulary here, which would help me understand and be uh, in better position to consider my emotions as an asset, and not let them overpower
Certainly.
and become a liability for me?
On the one part, when you say vocabulary, one is the verbal part of it, where you
Correct.
right now use so many words,
Yes.
the excitement or joy or feeling calm or etc. etc. And there is also one part of that emotional vocabulary which requires you to tune into what you are actually feeling.
Give me an example.
Uh, I'll give you an example. A very simple example. A lot of times, people use the word stress very easily. अरे बहुत stress है यार. And this बहुत stress है यार could be a 7-year-old talking about no, something happening at school, or it could be a 40-year-old talking about a lot of work pressure at work. So stress hai is a very common phrase that we all use.
Mm-hmm.
However, stress can mean different things. So when we are talking about emotional vocabulary, and that is something I often discuss with my clients, that how it is important to widen your emotional vocabulary. A lot of times, what we uh, understand is a broad block of emotion. I will give you a small example, my own example, I'll tell you.
Okay.
This happened a few months ago. Uh, so the emotion I'm talking about is about anger.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us experience that quite often. It is one of the most basic emotions, universal emotions. So I'll give you a very small example, which is a very trivial thing, but it will help to understand this concept of emotional vocabulary and why is it important for us to be fluent in that vocabulary.
Okay.
So this incident was that it I was going to drop my daughter to school, and that time is extremely rushed, as no anyone would know. So a lot of things happening, and you have to be on time and everything. So that day, what happened is that I had kept her dabba on the table, and she has like 3, 4 dabbas, and I forgot to pack two of them. And we went to school. I dropped her to school. I came back home. Luckily, the school is very close by. It's like just a 5-minute distance. So I came back. I immediately realized I have forgotten to give her tiffin. So I packed it in a bag. I nicely labeled it with her class and name and everything, and I immediately took it to the school. By then, the school had started, and the watchman just refused to let me take that tiffin to my daughter.
Okay.
I was giving him options. So I was like, fine, if you won't let me, you can call a peon, or you can call a auntie. And their school is like very well equipped. Like they have at least 2 dozen aunties on staff, several peons. So according to me, this was a very simple issue which could have been resolved. And that tiffin had to reach my daughter. And they just flatly refused. And they're like, you do whatever you want. You're not going in. And you can't send anything inside the school. And I got so mad at them. I was fuming. I know, like, even before I could come home, I just got onto my scooter and I typed a very angry message to the teacher saying that, no, what kind of a system is this? And no, under the name of security, you are just being very unreasonable. I also put a message on the parent group. So these days on WhatsApp, no, there are all these different groups, and
Correct.
these parents group are extremely active. So I put a message on that also. I returned home, and I was in this state for like some time. I didn't even have my lunch immediately. And then after some time, no, like I gave it a pause. And I was like, no, now think about it. Like, why are you so riled up? And why am I feeling so angry?
Mm-hmm.
So when I say it's a block, so if someone would ask, what are you feeling? I will say I'm feeling extremely angry. Fair enough. But especially an emotion like anger, it is always like the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at an iceberg, what do we see? Is just the tip of the iceberg.
Correct.
And we know that it's probably just 1/7 part, which is above the water surface, and a huge chunk of that iceberg is hidden below, which you can't see.
Correct.
A lot of times, our emotions are also like an iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the surface, what was seen that I was angry and I was feeling that. But then, when I delved under the water to look at why am I feeling so angry, there were different things. So an emotion like anger can include other things. So one, I was extremely irritated at myself that how could I forget such a simple thing.
Correct.
I did not like the fact that someone didn't listen to my solution.
Correct.
Like this was such a simple thing, and no, he should have listened. Also that part of like no I, no, I have this authority, or no, in my profession I'm used to people listening to me.
Correct.
So you have people who come to you, for counseling and for therapy, and somehow in my professional sphere I'm used to getting that kind of a reaction where I say something and most of the times people agree, or they don't just outright reject me. So somewhere, no, that is something that took me aback. uh, Maybe I felt insulted because of the way the watchman talked to me. So under this iceberg of anger there were all these different shades and different things. Also this sense that things are out of control,
Correct.
like I can't do anything about it. This sense of losing control often makes us angry. It could be in any sphere. So it could be
Of
something as
course.
small as this. It
Yes.
could be something happening, at your work front. It could be something happening, between friends.
Correct.
But a lot of times, this sense that I cannot control the situation around me makes us angry. So if something as simple as this can boil my blood, now you can imagine that there are a lot of challenges and stressors people face in their day-to-day life, which are far higher in the hierarchy than something like this. Okay, so turned out later, like the teacher assured me that no, don't worry, we will take care. And so by evening, when my daughter returned home, she was actually happy that I forgot the tiffin. Because what happened was everyone in the class was offering their tiffins. So she got a big variety to eat. The teacher gave her a chocolate. So at the end of the day, she was well fed. She was more than well fed, and she didn't have any issue about that. And no, that's when I like told myself that no, I am a counselor, and I tell people how to be get in charge of your emotions or acknowledge your emotions, and only then you can do something about it. But no, this was a very recent example, and so I thought this is something that can resonate with people. These kind of situations all of us go through.
Uh,
So when you say emotional vocabulary, it means that there are different facets, even a emotion like happiness. It can be, am I feeling content? Am I feeling satisfied? Am I feeling really joyful? Am I feeling glee because like someone I really hated or I don't like was sidelined and I got something? It could be coming from such a place also.
Correct.
It is
Yeah,
really
it happens.
important
Happen.
that you acknowledge that.
No, but I guess what you said here is something very interesting, Manjiri, and thanks for sharing a personal anecdote here. That despite being a, a practitioner for so many years in helping others deal with stress and anxiety, in moments as simple as this, you yourself were in the grips of anxiety. So, yes, I guess it's easier said than done that you need to step back and reflect. But I guess in the midst of everything, you are in the grips of everything. I mean, you said very nicely that you kind of later on dissected that there is element of loss of power, loss of authority, loss of control.
Yes.
As you drove to the school with those two missing tiffins, your expectation was that whoever is on the other side will understand your plight, will accept the tiffin
Yes.
and do the needful. But not only your expectations were not met, you were pushed back. So, uh, expectations not being met is something which is an
Mm.
everyday phenomena, which puts us off because we are not in control. And I think it also brings me to the point of the world that we are living in today, especially in urban India or even semi-urban India. Uh,
Mm.
it's an aspirational India, thanks to all that has
Yes.
been talked about, and for good reasons over the last 25, 30 years, for various economic uh, reforms that the country went through. Whole lot of sectors
Mm.
have opened up. There is an all pervasive availability of television networks thanks to satellite TV. There is 4G mobile phone in every small village in the country, internet and OTT platforms, and access to just about everything is so
Yes.
much. So, I come from a generation uh, which grew up in scarcity. I mean, we had to be very mindful of not only what our desires are, but what even our consumption is. Chadar dekh
True.
ke pair phailao was the standard line that we all grew up with. And
Yeah.
cut to today, we are talking of an era of abundance. There seems to be uh, so many choices for so many things. I mean, watching a movie on Netflix is not a happy experience for me if I don't know what I want to watch. Because browsing hundreds and hundreds of titles, after 15 minutes, I give up. I said, Jane do band karo. I don't want to watch anything. So what I'm saying is, in an era of abundance of choices, in an era of every single aspiration, which is possible today. I want to be into acting, I can be. If I want to be in fashion, I can be. If I can be want to be an entrepreneur, yes, in my own choice that I make, I can be successful. So uh, whatever dream I have, whether big or small, whether I come from a privileged background or not, whether I come from a big town or a small town, uh, there are ways and means and infrastructure and support and resources for me to become successful,
Yes.
which logically should create a
Make you happy.
society which is of a lot of happy people, a lot of content people, you know. But the reality is otherwise. Uh,
That's what we see. The
despite
reality is not so.
despite social media and connections, they say I have no connections actually. So
Mm.
in the context of the the life that we are living today, how do you see the importance and value of mental health by oneself, for oneself, with the help of practitioners like you?
What I'm seeing from experience is that the need for mental health has definitely increased, especially in the past decade or so. Post COVID, it has increased even more.
Correct.
So it is actually true that the cases of depression, anxiety are on a rise. And what is sad and worrying is that these issues are cropping up a lot earlier. So these days, the prevalence of mental health issues in adolescents and young adults is really increasing,
Mm-hmm.
which was not the case, say, 20 years ago. Even if we say that today more people are coming up or more people are seeking help, so maybe earlier people were not talking about it, and maybe today they are reaching out. Even if you consider that factor, it is a fact that especially cases of depression and anxiety are on the rise. And what we are seeing here uh, is a curious phenomena. So, like you pointed out, on one hand, there is abundance of choice, and on the other hand, we are still seeing that that does not translate to people being happy or people having good mental health. So, I I will tell you a few things that I have noticed or what I think play a role over here when we are
Mm-hmm.
talking of young people and why mental health issues are cropping up more, or why is it crucial for them to address and pay attention to their mental health and not wait for it to become into a full blown disorder. And this is my subjective and personal feeling what I'm going to share now.
Yep.
So one thing I see, like you very rightly pointed, that there are just too many choices today. And with having many choices, that brings along its own stress. See, earlier when there was no choice or it was very limited choice, say, I think in the 70s and 80s, if you wanted to buy a car, it would be just a Fiat or an Ambassador. In the
Correct.
90s came the Maruti 800. Now, car is something, let's say, like we just don't go to buy a car randomly. Even a simple thing, something like, I feel hungry. Okay. Now, earlier on, there was no concept of ordering in. Like,
Correct.
you make something. If you are hungry, you look around, घर में डब्बे में जो भी है, it might be a biscuit, it might be a chiwda, you have that. But no, now I have so many choices. I can no, like, I can order something.
Correct.
Not just order something. It could be anything from a vada pav to a chaat to something Lebanese to a smoothie bowl. So now what is happening is that just because there are so many choices, it also creates confusion.
Correct.
And a lot of times we just get wrapped up in picking up something. One aspect of that is this uh, somewhere at the back of your mind you have this thing, but what if there is something better? What if there is something cheaper? What if there is something more interesting?
Correct.
And you never settle down. So at this moment, if I'm hungry and if I feel like eating something savory, I don't just go with the first thing that pops up on my screen or first thing that is available. I spend a lot of time looking at all these options because I have this feeling that no, or chahiye, or no, I should not be missing out on anything. So this fear of missing out is there. Also, so that is one aspect. Another thing which I have started noticing a lot is that the yardstick has totally changed now. See, earlier on, I would be comparing myself to my friends, my society friends, my school friends. I'm talking this more in terms of the younger generation, like
Correct.
school children, college students.
Correct.
So my point of comparison, my yardstick was things and people around me. So at the most, say if I don't have a television set, my friend has that. That was it. Hmm? But now what has happened is that because of social media and your access to anything anywhere in the world, my yardstick has now completely changed. So I can see what I am wearing, what my friends are wearing. I can also see say what my K-pop idol is wearing. I can compare myself to what Kim Kardashian is doing, or I don't know, some pop star is doing. And that always leaves me with a sense that I don't have enough, or this is not enough. The other day, I remember I was just having a chat with my husband, and I have two young daughters. One is a teenager, one is almost 10 years old. And we were just discussing that how difficult it is now to elicit that wow or that sense of wonder and amazement from today's kids. Because anything you tell them, anything you show them, most of the times the reaction is that, yeah, I know, or I've seen it. So, see, earlier, even if you get a different pen, you would feel, oh, wow, I've got something different.
Correct.
And it is not just the world. Like, as parents, also, we are also, we also play some part in it because we want to give the best to our child. So, we are also actively making sure that whatever they want gets fulfilled. We are exposing them to a lot more things. So, for example, as a parent, say in the 80s or 90s, extracurricular activity might mean, say, putting in a Kathak class
Correct.
or putting him in a whatever, some teaching them an instrument. But today, when you see parents like, it could be phonics, it could be mime, it could be, I don't know, they take them to some animal, dog cafe to get that experience. The classes and the range has also increased so much. So, in some way, we parents are also to blame that we are also exposing them and just giving them so many choices and inadvertently sometimes indulging them. But even the world around them has changed so much, and the yardstick has now completely changed. And it is most of the times something that you can never attain. It is good to have an ideal, it is good to have something to aspire for. However, if that ruins your happiness, or if it constantly keeps you in that state of wanting more and not paying attention to what you already have or being happy with what you have, then that kind of a aspirational thing is not really healthy, is what I personally feel.
I mean, there are these two phrases in Hindi that I think we've grown up with, thanks
Hmm.
to advertisement and Bollywood, which is
Hmm.
"Ye dil mange more" and "Kal ho na ho." So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a reality we live with. We can't crib it about it. We have to accept it. But I think interesting you say this. Manjiri, you have a teenage daughter, you said, and the younger one is how old?
9.5.
9.5, 10. Okay, but the 10-year-old girl is I'm sure she would be much different than the 10-year-old Manjiri that she was when she was 10.
Oh, definitely. In fact, even like my elder daughter, like there's just a 6 year difference between them, but even I see a difference in the way they are growing up. Also, the overall environment around them, and so there also I see some difference, but definitely the way I grew up and the way my kids are growing up, these are two different worlds,
So
and
as
that
a
makes my role very challenging.
as a then I'm in fact tempted to ask you this, Manjiri. As a mother, uh,
Hmm.
and as a practitioner and an expert in the field of mental health, what
Hmm.
are the anxieties and hopes that you carry as a mother for your two daughters in the world that they are living today and the world they will grow into as young women in their own ways?
I'll tell you honestly, one of very basic anxiety or fear or worry, I don't know what to call it, is that I just I want to enable them, or I want to empower them to make decent choices. Because as a mother, I would want to always guide them, be by their side, protect them from any kind of difficulty, any kind of trauma. So that's my instinct as a mother. But I am a mental health professional also, and I see a lot of cases around me also in my practice. And I'm a little more attuned to picking up all these things. So I know as a mental health professional also that I cannot be hovering over them, or I cannot be with them. I cannot decide and always protect them. I know that is a fact. And somewhere I have to accept that. And so my focus is more on how do I empower them to be confident, to not be scared of trying out things. It is okay to fail. So I am not on this mission to be the perfect mother or raise the best kids, because being a perfect parent is a myth. And no, I very firmly believe, and always say that I am a counselor and a mental health professional in my clinic, but at home I'm like a regular mother. And there are times when I have scolded them, very rarely, but yes, I have like given her a whack or something. But I consciously try to keep those things at a very very minimal. So my worry is, or my anxiety is, that I don't want them to no get caught up into no what we just discussed about no always wanting more and nothing is enough and that kind of a thing. The dangers or the temptations are just going to go on increasing in their world. So next year my elder one will enter college, and she's really looking forward to going to a college in Mumbai. She's very clear that I don't want to attend a junior college, or I don't want to go to my school. I want to go to a real college. And she has all these ideas about how cool college life will be. And I'm proud of that. I feel good that there is something that she's so driven about. So what I consciously do is, no, let her try. Kids should develop a sense of agency, that no, they have some control over their choices, over things that they do in their life. But at the same time, we have a safety net. So
Sure.
give them that sense that if anything goes wrong, or at any point if you feel, you can always come and talk to me.
Correct.
There is nothing that no you should be so scared of or so ashamed of that you can't talk to me. So that is a sense that I have very consciously tried to foster between us, that communication should be open. It is okay if I don't like it or I don't approve of it, but I am never going to say that how could you feel this, or
Correct.
why are you feeling like this. All kinds of feelings, all kinds of emotions, okay. It is okay to try out things, it is okay to fail, because that is how you are going to learn. and get up yourself, dust yourself, and move on.
No, true. I think the world that I grew up in, the world that you have grown up in, and the world that your daughters and my son is growing up with is very different. I mean, the world has changed and changed very fast. The smartphones in everybody's hands is influencing just about everything.
Mm.
I mean, we have to accept it. We can't be cynical about it. But I liked what you said, that keeping the communications open, ensuring that the dialogue doesn't stop, and giving them
Yes.
the space. And you also said about, I don't have enough, but there is this thing that I'm experiencing in certain context, that it is not that I don't have enough. There is this other thing, that I am not enough.
Mm.
There's this whole sword on the on invisible sword on the heads of these young Indians. And when I'm saying young, I'm not talking of those in the teens. I'm talking of those in the 20s and even 30s,
Early
uh,
20s. Yes,
early
yes.
20s, 30s. This whole question mark on the sense of self-worth and self-esteem, which
Mm.
somehow is also showing up, which I'm sure will have does have a huge impact, right? I mean, I did two startups, so uh, 10 years of my life, it just consumed me totally. One
Mm.
worked amazingly well, one didn't work that well. But then there were
Mm.
several times in that 10-year journey that I had where whether I'm doing the right things was always a question, and a whole lot of moral dilemmas that I was faced in the
Mm.
startups that I had. And moral dilemmas today are a huge reality. I mean, I came across a face the other day, Manjiri, on a TV show on a Marathi channel, where
Mm.
uh, this 20 something boy and a girl are having a conversation as they are getting into a
Mm.
relationship, saying that, are we in a rebound relationship? Now, I heard that
Mm.
phrase for the first time in my life, and I kind of asked a teenage
Around.
niece of mine after a few days. I called her up. I was curious about this phrase. So, she's all of 19 right now, and I said probably she would know, because these
Yeah,
two
you reached the
characters,
right person.
yeah, these two characters on the TV show were probably in their 20, 21, 22, whatever. And I called her, says, what is a rebound relationship? So this is a, Kaka, you have grown old. I said, yes, I know I am old. This is rebound relationship is when both the boy and a girl are coming out of a breakup, respective
Yeah,
breakups, and trying to form a new link up with as a new pair. And they always have a doubt whether
yeah.
our relationship, our emotional engagement with each other is genuine, or is it just to cope with the trauma that one has had because
Mm-hmm.
you are out of another relationship. So I guess the range of emotions and the impact that it is having is
Mm.
massive and huge. But then, let me ask you, over after spending 20 years of your life in this space of mental health, what is it that it has given you, and probably what uh, has it taken away from you? What are the flip side of this profession that you have experienced? Because I was reading somewhere which said that mental health professionals, particularly psychologists, do a very poor job of
Mm.
monitoring their own mental health. I'm curious here, what has this
That is a
been?
risk. That is an occupational hazard.
Yes,
I'll start with what I have gained from this field.
yes, yes.
And this is at a very personal level. So I'm not talking about whatever the experience or like a reputation. I'm talking of things at a very personal level, what this field has given me. One, it has definitely changed me as a person.
Okay.
So, no, I remember me being a very submissive person as a student, as a teenager also. I was someone who had a lot of anxiety about speaking up in front of people. I don't think I had a very high self-esteem looking back in hindsight. But this profession, because I read up a lot of things, I have attended workshops, I have interacted with like stalwarts in this field. What this has definitely given me is more confidence, a very holistic sense of self, my idea of who I am, along with all my limitations and my assets and my strengths, is now a lot more firm. The other take home that I get from this profession is an immense sense of gratitude, a sense that I'm just so blessed to be in the position, be with the family that I have. Because unfortunately, as part of my professional practice, people come to me with so many problems. So there are some people who are actually having a mental disorder, say something like OCD or schizophrenia or depression. But that is only one subgroup of the people who come to me, in which they don't really have a part to play. Like someone would have a heart disease, someone else would have a mental health disease. But there is a huge section of people who don't necessarily have a mental health disorder, but they are dealing with a lot of distress in their daily life. It could be marital conflicts, it could be parenting issues, it could be inability to communicate with your children, so it could be stressors in the workplace. So there are just so many things that people are troubled with. And so what I end up feeling is that, oh, I'm so much better off than them. And I should be grateful for the family that I have, the support system I have, also the workplace that I am in, at work at this place called Institute for Psychological Health, or IPH. And we have this extremely flexible and democratic system where I can reach out to any of my colleagues. It could be like the founder, trustee of my institution, who is much up in the hierarchy. It could be, my colleagues. It could be someone who has just freshly joined and it's a new test and I just want to discuss it with her. So all these things, I'm very lucky to have this ecosystem in terms of my workplace, in terms of my family, which ensures that my own mental health stays strong. I am able to be resilient. I am able to uh, have those reserves inside me by which I can be a support to someone else. So these are the two things that my profession has given me.
Any daily or frequent regimen that you follow to ensure that your own mental health is the best that it can be? I mean, is there a technique or a process that even you as a healer have to undergo?
I wouldn't say there is a particular way, or like there is a 1, 2, 3, 4. You do these 4 things, and you are set to be uh, healthy mental health professional. So you don't have any rule book for that. But I can definitely share a few things that I believe in or I do for myself, which have worked for me. They may or may not work for others. So one thing that I have very consciously done is that I have limited my practice. And so I don't have a 9 to 5 kind of job where I every day I start at 9 and till the evening or late evening I'm seeing clients. Personally, I feel that would be too much for me. And I believe that one of the reasons that the quality of care and support or whatever I can offer to my clients is of a good level is because I have very consciously limited my professional area of practice. So long it was out of compulsion. We just talked about my daughters, and they're still at a very young age. So for the last 10-15 years, it has been out of compulsion, because raising a family and having a full-time career is very difficult, if not impossible. You need a very strong support system. And I was very clear on what kind of roles and where is it that I want to, what is a priority for me at which juncture. So I feel personally that is one part where I'm good at. I am good at prioritizing things and what is important for me in life at a particular time. I'm also, I feel, good with making my peace with the things that I have to let go in that process. So if I choose to work, say, 3 or 4 days in a week, and give a lot of time to my children's growing up years, their studies, taking them to birthday parties, taking them to some whatever classes, or all those things. Being with my family every year in the month of May, I take a 1 month break, and I do that saying that so far my daughters really look forward to that 1 month break. There will soon come a time when they will fly off. They will have their own lives. And whether or not I am around wouldn't make a difference to them. And I don't want to regret 5 years later, 10 years later, that oh, I didn't give them enough time. So do I lose certain things in this process? Certainly. Maybe I don't make as much money as some of my colleagues do. Or had I been in a hotshot corporate job, I would have earned a lot, been to a lot many places. But this is something that I have done very consciously, so I don't have any regrets. So coming back to your point, what do I do for my own mental health? For me, what works is having a limited practice, and that enables me to be at the best of my ability. Another thing that I feel, and it's a very basic thing, but I think it is important. It boils down to getting enough sleep, being mindful of what you eat, and having regular exercise. In fact, exercise is something which releases endorphins in your brain, and they are your happy hormones. They naturally make you feel energetic, and prep you up, make you ready for the day. So this is at a very basic level, but I think all of us can at least try to strike a balance in that area. And another thing which I do is, I know a lot of people wouldn't agree to that, and I'm not being prescriptive in what I'm saying. I'm just saying what I do. I am off social media because I find that extremely time consuming, and you would end up wasting a lot of time on that. And thankfully for me, I don't need it as a part of my profession. So, say, suppose I have to, do my own PR, do marketing to get more clients and stuff like that. Of course, I would have been on social media. As a person, I have more value for real-time interactions than virtual interactions. Thankfully, not being on social media doesn't impact my work. So, no, touch wood, in all these years, I have never had to go asking or seeking clients. Work has always come to me. Have come back to me. And I find that keeping off social media for me has more advantages than disadvantages. And of course, my daughters, my husband, they are on that. So I get my dose of entertainment, like what's trending, and seeing some funny reels, and that's enough for me. Or what has someone put on Twitter, or some interesting article that my husband will share with me. So I get that vicariously, and I'm happy with that. So these are the few things that have worked for me, and I'm good at shifting gears. So there are days when, like, I say I'm a full-time mother and I'm a part-time psychologist. And in a few years, I can definitely make that shift to being a full-time psychologist and maybe being a part-time mother.
Yeah, once the birds leave the nest, that may
Yeah.
possibly happen. Or for all you know, you might pick up something that you have kept aside for a long, long time.
Yeah, in fact, I would like to add that part also, that another thing that keeps me going and has worked is new learning. I have found that through my personal experience that new learning always helps, and doesn't matter what profession you are in. So no, and it's not that you have to like take a sabbatical or do a course. It could be simple things. I'll tell you one example. I'm a trained Bharatnatyam dancer, and even after my daughter was born, I used to attend class, do my riyaz, practice. When I was in college, I was a professional dancer. So, but with time, all those things, no, uh, I couldn't devote any time to that. But I always had this thing in my mind that what if I can club these two things, dance and psychology. So a few years ago, I did an experiment using dance therapy for people who are recovering from schizophrenia. Now, this was a new experience for me also and led to a lot of learning on my part. Say 3 years ago, I learned how to make puran poli. That's a Maharashtrian delicacy. I myself love eating that, but all these years I was like, I would just get it from outside and no, why go through the trouble?
It took a
But
long
now my
time.
younger daughter,
It seems it took a long time for you to learn this.
yeah, so my younger daughter also loves puran poli. So I said, oh, now no, I would love to make it. So and my mother-in-law is an excellent cook. So I learned from her. So it's okay if you learn something at the age of 40 or no, even after that. I learned to drive 2 years ago. My point is that you need to keep learning because a lot of times, because of your work, it can get repetitive, it can get monotonous, and you need to expand and widen your horizon. You need to get new experiences, and any kind of new learning is always enriching. It will, like enrich you as a person. It will help you to grow as a person. Is what I very strongly believe.
No, what you just said took me back to a conversation I had on Wings podcast with, just I think a couple of episodes back. And we were talking about identity and purpose.
Mm,
That came up as a part of the conversation. And this whole notion whether identity and a purpose, is it a full stop or is it a comma?
mm. I
That's
believe it's a
how.
comma.
Yes, and that's what we ended up talking a lot as to how identities are not etched in stone as if they are permanent. What you spoke about just
Mm,
now, as in, so there are so many identities and roles that you are, simultaneously playing with, like a juggler with so many balls.
mm.
Mother, psychologist, somebody who's learned Puran Poli, who, for all you know, may get back to, not professional dancing, but getting back to your Bharatnatyam.
Yeah, that,
Uh,
that is on my bucket list.
yeah, and then
if
maybe.
my if my body and if my knees cooperate, of
Why
course.
not? Why not? I'm sure somebody like you, once you kind of apply yourself, you will maybe pick up, you learn driving. So maybe go on a long drive to coastal Karnataka or wherever, whichever part of the country. So, yes, I mean, uh, what I'm trying to get here is, and I'm hearing from you is also that, identities and purposes evolve and one needs to be open and be a continuous learner here. But on the subject of mental health, I think what I would like to hear from you about as a kind of a closing remark where uh,
Mm.
I read somewhere a beautiful quote. I don't know who it was, but I came across this, which says that what mental health needs is more sunlight and more unashamed conversations.
It's true. There is a lot of stigma which is associated with mental health issues, with mental disorders. And it is this stigma which holds people back a lot of times. There are a lot of myths also which have been perpetuated, socially, culturally over the years. So no, it might be that say something like no, mental health is it's just a fad. It is something about no ये पैसे वालों का depression पैसे वालों का problem है. Yeah, it's something of the urban elite. That's not true. Or going to a mental health professional is a sign of weakness. no, or it is happening because now families are breaking up or our joint family system is no. So yeah, these could be certain factors which are exacerbating the problem or contributing to it. But you have to be aware and you have to accept that mental health issues are a reality and you can't just brush it under the carpet. You have to address them. The faster, the better. And you don't have to wait for something to turn into a disorder. Unfortunately, what happens even now, a lot of times people come to us after they have been to their family doctor, they have been to shown this patrika or been to an astrologer, or they have just been suffering for years on end and now they saw something somewhere, heard something. One good thing about this whole social media thing is that it has provided a platform and people
Correct.
are now talking about mental health issues a lot more openly, a lot more frequently, and to some extent this taboo and stigma is reducing. So what I mean to say is that seek help. There is nothing bad, nothing wrong in seeking help. It is okay even you don't have a big problem. In fact, there is this whole field of psychology which has recently come up, which is called positive psychology, which focuses on development. So I might not have a problem at the moment, but how can I be a better person, a better mother, or attain all my uh, potential as a team member? So it's not only focused on disease and disorder.
Sure, sure.
There is also this whole area of development. And like I said at the very beginning of our podcast, that mental health is on a continuum. So it that at one end is disorder, at the other end is development. Somewhere in between is distress. You could be anywhere on the continuum, and all of us keep moving. We are not static. It's not like I'm always at this point. We keep moving.
And as you
But
said,
what is important that you have to be open to seek help and talk about it.
absolutely. I mean, as they say in Hindi, बात करने से ही बात बनती है. So I think I'm so happy and delighted we have had this conversation, Manjari. I think we've kind of went in multiple directions as if we were meandering as well. But I enjoyed this meandering, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights, your experiences, and a lot about yourself as a part of this conversation. I mean, would have loved to keep this conversation going, but we are on a podcast format. Uh, would love to hear from you. Where has this conversation left you?
Certainly. So thank you for having me on this platform. And we will definitely take it up offline. We can always meet up and continue this conversation offline. But thanks again for having me on your podcast.
And next time you plan to make a Puran Puli, remember me and Asha, give us a heads up. We don't mind driving down to Thane and visiting you and having your nice, beautiful Puran Puli.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75 at gmail.com. Thank you.